Imagine a world without electricity. No glowing lights illuminating the night. No humming of machines in factories. No buzzing of radios, no flickering of screens, no power surging invisibly through wires to make life easier, faster, and brighter. A world lit only by candles and lamps burning oil or gas, where every spark of light is a laborious effort. Now imagine one man, a visionary, an inventor, a thinker, who not only imagined a world transformed by electricity but dedicated his entire life to making that vision real. This man was Nikola Tesla, the man who lit the world and dreamed of a wireless future. Nikola Tesla was born on July 10, 1856, in a small rustic village called Smiljan, nestled in the rolling hills of the Austro-Hungarian Empire in what is now modern-day Croatia. Born into a family with a rich intellectual tradition, his father, Milutin Tesla, was a Serbian Orthodox priest, and his mother, Juka Mandic, though uneducated formally, was an inventor in her own right, creating small household devices. Tesla inherited both curiosity and ingenuity from his parents. Even as a child, Nikola displayed extraordinary talents. He was a prodigy in mathematics, memorizing complex formulas and calculations effortlessly, and possessed an uncanny ability to picture mechanical devices entirely in his mind. While other children played, Tesla immersed himself in the mysteries of electricity, in the workings of magnets, in the wonders of light and motion. From an early age, Tesla experienced vivid visions, often describing them as flashes of light that allowed him to see entire inventions fully formed before he built them. These mental simulations were so precise that Tesla rarely needed to sketch or physically construct his ideas to understand how they would work. This ability to think in 3 dimensions would later become a hallmark of his genius, allowing him to invent and perfect devices that would take others years of trial and error to develop. Tesla's schooling began in the local village school, but his mind was restless. While teachers struggled to keep up with his rapid learning, Tesla found solace in books and experiments. He absorbed knowledge voraciously: physics, mathematics, literature, languages, and developed a profound understanding of electrical principles long before he would ever touch the devices that would make him famous. By the age of 10, Tesla was already constructing small electrical devices and experimenting with static electricity. It was during these formative years that he began to dream not just of inventions, but of the impact they could have on humanity. Yet Tesla's life was never just about machines and formulas. He possessed a deep philosophical mind and a boundless imagination. He questioned the nature of energy, the universe, and human potential. He believed that science and technology could elevate humanity, reduce suffering, and transform everyday life. Where others saw wires and copper, Tesla saw a living, breathing network of energy flowing invisibly through the world, a force capable of connecting people, cities, and continents. He dreamed of a time when power would be free, abundant, and wireless, a radical vision that many contemporaries dismissed as impossible or fantastical. In 1875, Tesla enrolled at the Austrian Polytechnic in Graz, where he immersed himself in electrical engineering. Here, his talents flourished. He studied alternating current, direct current, magnetism, and the emerging technologies of the industrial age. It was during these years that Tesla first conceived the ideas that would define his career: the alternating current motor, high-voltage electricity transmission, and devices capable of wireless communication. He was obsessed with perfection, often skipping meals, sleep, and social activities to refine his mental blueprints. While other students relied on trial and error, Tesla constructed entire systems in his imagination, running virtual experiments in his mind until every detail was exact. Despite his brilliance, Tesla faced challenges. He struggled with personal health issues, and his perfectionism often put him at odds with professors and peers. At one point, he suffered a nervous breakdown, a sign of the immense pressure he placed on himself to bring his visionary ideas into the real world. Nevertheless, Tesla's determination never waned. By the time he left the Polytechnic, he was already a master of electrical theory and ready to confront the world beyond Europe. In 1884, Tesla arrived in New York City, A young man with little more than a letter of introduction and an unshakable belief in his ideas. He began working for Thomas Edison, the American icon of invention, but their partnership quickly proved difficult. Edison, a practical engineer focused on incremental improvements, clashed with Tesla's visionary and theoretical approach. Tesla's ideas about alternating current were dismissed by Edison in favor of direct current, sparking a professional rivalry that would later become legendary, the War of the Currents. This battle was not just about electricity. It was a clash of visions, a conflict between practical short-term thinking and transformative long-term innovation. Despite the challenges, Tesla's genius could not be contained. Within months of arriving in America, he began developing the alternating current system that would revolutionize electrical power. He designed induction motors, transformers, and generators capable of transmitting electricity over vast distances. He demonstrated the superiority of AC through public displays, lighting entire buildings with invisible currents and showing that this new form of electricity was safe, efficient, and scalable. His inventions were not merely technical achievements. They were glimpses into a future powered by human ingenuity and imagination. Tesla's mind was restless and never satisfied with small accomplishments. While the world celebrated his AC motors and electrical systems, he began to experiment with high-voltage, high-frequency electricity. He invented the Tesla coil, a device capable of producing spectacular electrical arcs and laying the groundwork for radio, wireless communication, and even medical devices. He envisioned a world in which energy could travel invisibly through the air, powering homes, factories, and vehicles without a single wire. He dreamed of transmitting messages across continents without cables and imagined machines that could operate autonomously through remote control. These were not merely inventions. They were predictions of technologies that would only become reality decades later. Tesla's life was also marked by eccentricities and singular focus. He lived modestly, often neglecting personal wealth and comfort, dedicating himself entirely to his experiments. He claimed to work for 20 hours a day, to sleep only a few hours, and to subsist on minimal food. He had peculiar habits and rituals, from an obsession with the number 3 to a lifelong fascination with pigeons, yet all of these quirks were tied to a mind operating at the highest levels of creativity and focus. Tesla was a man out of his time, a thinker whose ideas often seemed impossible until history proved them inevitable. But Tesla's vision extended far beyond the laboratory. He dreamed of a future in which technology could eliminate scarcity, reduce suffering, and unite humanity. He imagined towers transmitting wireless energy across continents, machines performing work without human labor, and communication that could bridge oceans in an instant. While his contemporaries dismissed these ideas as fantasy, he pursued them relentlessly, constructing the Wardenclyffe Tower in New York, a bold experiment to transmit energy and messages without wires. Though the project ultimately failed due to financial challenges, it symbolized Tesla's unyielding ambition and his capacity to see a future invisible to everyone else. Nikola Tesla's story is not merely one of inventions and machines. It is the story of imagination, persistence, and vision. It is the story of a man who dared to think differently, who challenged the limits of his time, and who devoted his life to a future he might never see fully realized. His legacy is all around us, in the lights that illuminate our cities, the motors that power our factories, the wireless technologies that connect our world, and the inspiration he continues to provide to scientists, engineers, and dreamers. As we embark on this journey into Tesla's life, we will explore not only his inventions and discoveries, but the man behind them, the thinker, the dreamer, the relentless innovator, whose ideas continue to shape the technology and imagination of today. From his humble beginnings in a small village to the bustling streets of New York City, from experimental laboratories to visions of wireless power spanning continents, Nikola Tesla's life is a testament to the power of creativity, curiosity, and courage. This is the story of a man who lit the world, dreamed of a future without limits, and whose ideas still inspire innovation, technology, and imagination. This is Nikola Tesla. Nikola Tesla, The man whose inventions would light up the modern world was born on July 10, 1856, in the small village of Smiljan, nestled in the hills of the Austrian Empire in what is now Croatia. Born into a family of intellect, faith, and creativity, Tesla's upbringing laid the foundation for a life defined by imagination, brilliance, and relentless curiosity. His father, Milutin Tesla, was a Serbian Orthodox priest, a man of discipline, education, and moral rigor. Though deeply religious, Milutin also had a profound respect for learning and intellect, instilling in his children the values of knowledge, perseverance, and integrity. Tesla's mother, Juka Mandic, was extraordinary in her own right. She had never received formal schooling, yet she possessed an inventor's mind, creating ingenious household tools and mechanical devices for her family's use. Young Nikola would later attribute his inventive spirit to his mother, crediting her creativity as a driving influence in his life. The Tesla family home was modest, but it resonated with curiosity and intellect. From the earliest years of his childhood, Nikola displayed remarkable abilities that distinguished him from other children. At the age of 3, he could recite entire passages from memory, a prodigious feat that astonished his parents and teachers alike. By the age of 5, he was already demonstrating a fascination with numbers, patterns, and natural phenomena. He would spend hours observing the natural world, the movement of water, the flight of birds, the rustle of leaves in the wind, seeking to understand the forces that governed them. Electricity, though largely a mystery at that time, captivated his attention in particular. Young Nikola would experiment with static electricity, rubbing objects together to create sparks and marveling at the invisible forces that caused objects to attract and repel. It was the beginning of a lifelong obsession with the invisible currents of the universe. Tesla's memory was legendary. He possessed what modern psychologists might describe as a photographic memory. He could recall entire books, conversations, and complex equations with astonishing clarity. As a child, he delighted in challenging his father and teachers, reciting long passages from religious texts and scientific books verbatim. He could visualize the intricate mechanisms of devices he had never seen and often described them with exact precision. This extraordinary mental capacity allowed him to conduct mental experiments of a sophistication that even adults found difficult to comprehend. By the age of 10, Tesla could mentally construct complex mechanical devices, rotate them in his mind, and predict their functionality without ever touching a tool. It was a gift that would define the genius of his later life. While Nikola's intellect was exceptional, so too was his imagination. He experienced vivid visions from a very young age. He described seeing objects and inventions in his mind with such clarity that he could discern every detail: the shape of each gear, the flow of energy, the motion of every component. These visions were sometimes accompanied by flashes of light, a phenomenon that fascinated and occasionally frightened him. They allowed him to perfect inventions mentally before committing them to paper or physical construction. It was as if his mind contained a complete laboratory, capable of testing, refining, and improving ideas before they existed in reality. His family often marveled at his abilities, recognizing in him a rare blend of intellect and vision that promised extraordinary achievements. Tesla's childhood was also shaped by the natural and cultural environment of Smiljan. The village, surrounded by forests, rivers, and mountains, provided him with endless opportunities for observation and exploration. He would wander the hills and fields for hours, studying the flight of birds, the movement of the wind through trees, and the patterns of lightning during storms. Electricity and magnetism were not abstract concepts to him. They were forces of nature he could see and feel. He recalled the awe he felt watching lightning strike during thunderstorms, fascinated by its power and beauty. These experiences nurtured his later experiments with high-voltage electricity and his desire to harness energy in ways the world had never seen. Education played an important role in Tesla's early development. He excelled in mathematics and physics, mastering concepts well beyond the level of his peers. He often challenged teachers, asking questions that were difficult to answer and proposing ideas that seemed fantastical. At the same time, he developed a strong work ethic, influenced by his father's discipline and the high expectations of his family. Tesla's intellectual abilities were coupled with intense focus. He could study for hours without distraction, absorbing knowledge at a remarkable rate. Despite his talents, Tesla faced moments of difficulty and illness. He was prone to nervous conditions and experienced intense periods of overexertion, often caused by his obsessive curiosity and drive for perfection. As a boy, he would sometimes work so long at experiments or mental exercises that he neglected sleep and food, immersing himself entirely in his investigations. These early habits foreshadowed the tireless work ethic he would later apply to his inventions, often working through the night in his laboratories, consumed by the pursuit of discovery. Tesla's fascination with electricity began early and was intertwined with his imaginative play. He would construct small electrical devices, using rudimentary materials to experiment with currents and sparks. He observed the effects of static electricity, experimented with magnets, and even created simple motors powered by batteries. His experiments were not merely for amusement. They reflected a deeper desire to understand the principles that governed the world around him. Tesla later described these early experiments as the foundation of his later work, saying that they taught him to think critically, observe carefully, and experiment with imagination and precision. Anecdotes from Tesla's childhood reveal the extraordinary nature of his mind. At one point, he was able to memorize entire scientific texts and recite them verbatim, astounding teachers and peers. On another occasion, he reportedly repaired a malfunctioning mechanical device simply by visualizing its inner workings, identifying the problem, and describing the solution without physically touching it. These stories, passed down through family accounts and Tesla's own recollections, illustrate not only his intellect but his unique capacity for mental experimentation. He was not merely learning, he was creating, imagining, and problem-solving at a level far beyond his years. Tesla's upbringing was also shaped by the cultural and religious environment of his family. While he later became known for his scientific rationalism, his father's spiritual influence instilled a sense of moral responsibility and an appreciation for the interconnectedness of life. This philosophical perspective influenced his later work, imbuing his inventions with a vision of social progress and human benefit. Throughout his early years, Tesla exhibited traits that would define his adult life: prodigious intellect, unyielding curiosity, an obsessive focus on detail, and an extraordinary capacity for imagination. He was a dreamer and a doer, capable of seeing possibilities that others could not, and of transforming those visions into tangible reality. His childhood was marked by exploration, experimentation, and a relentless pursuit of knowledge. It was a period in which the foundations of his genius were laid, preparing him for a lifetime of innovation that would transform the world. In summary, Nikola Tesla's early life was a tapestry of intellect, imagination, and curiosity. Born into a family that valued knowledge and creativity, he displayed remarkable mental abilities from a young age. His fascination with electricity, his prodigious memory, his vivid visualizations, and his tireless work ethic set him apart from his peers. The environment of Smiljan, the guidance of his family, and his innate brilliance combined to produce a mind capable of seeing the invisible, imagining the impossible, and creating inventions that would change the world. Tesla's early life was not merely a prelude to his genius. It was the crucible in which his extraordinary talents were forged, preparing him for the remarkable contributions he would make to science, technology, and human progress. After the extraordinary beginnings of his childhood in the village of Smiljan, Nikola Tesla's journey into the wider world of knowledge began in earnest. The boy who had dazzled his parents and teachers with prodigious memory and imagination now stepped into formal education, where the seeds of genius would be cultivated amidst both challenge and inspiration. Tesla's education was a path not only of learning, but of discovery, experimentation, and self-realization, setting the stage for the inventions that would one day illuminate the world. Tesla's early schooling was deeply influenced by the cultural and intellectual environment of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. He attended elementary school in Smiljan and later in nearby towns, excelling in mathematics, physics, and languages. While many children approached school as a routine, Tesla approached it as a playground for his mind. He absorbed lessons with a voracious appetite, but his restless spirit and extraordinary intellect often made traditional instruction feel slow and confining. Teachers were simultaneously impressed and exasperated. His ability to grasp complex concepts quickly often left them struggling to challenge him, while his vivid imagination sometimes distracted him from rote memorization or mundane exercises. It was during these formative years that Tesla first began to blend imagination with rigorous scientific thinking. He conducted small experiments at home and in local workshops, exploring the properties of electricity, magnetism, and mechanics. Using rudimentary materials, batteries, wires, and magnets, he constructed simple electrical devices and motors, often predicting their behavior with uncanny accuracy before ever physically assembling them. Tesla's experiments were not mere childish play. They were the beginnings of a methodical approach to invention, combining observation, mental visualization, and practical testing. One of the defining characteristics of Tesla's educational development was his extraordinary capacity for mental simulation. Unlike most students, Tesla could construct entire mechanisms and run experiments entirely within his mind. He could rotate objects, test forces, and visualize electrical currents and magnetic fields with a precision that often astonished his teachers and peers. This mental laboratory allowed him to refine ideas long before touching materials or tools, eliminating trial and error and accelerating the pace of innovation. As Tesla progressed through his schooling, he displayed a remarkable range of interests. Mathematics, physics, and mechanics were natural fascinations, but he also excelled in literature, languages, and philosophy. He learned several languages, including German, French, and English, and read extensively from classical texts to contemporary scientific treatises. His intellectual curiosity was limitless. While other students focused on completing assignments, Tesla explored the underlying principles behind the problems, seeking to understand the why as well as the how. This pursuit of deeper understanding became a hallmark of his later scientific work, allowing him to approach problems from unique angles and devise innovative solutions. In 1875, Tesla took a decisive step in his education by enrolling at the Austrian Polytechnic in Graz. Here, his genius truly began to flourish. The Polytechnic provided both structure and opportunity, exposing him to advanced concepts in electrical engineering, physics, and mechanics. Tesla's study regimen was intense. He often worked for 12 to 16 hours a day, sometimes skipping meals or sleep in his pursuit of knowledge. His professors recognized his extraordinary abilities, though some were bewildered by his unconventional methods and relentless focus. Tesla immersed himself in the study of alternating current, magnetism, and electromagnetism, laying the foundation for his future breakthroughs in electrical engineering. At Graz, Tesla also began to experience some of the pressures and challenges that would accompany his brilliance throughout his life. His obsessive focus and perfectionism sometimes led to physical exhaustion and nervous strain. He reported intense headaches, moments of extreme fatigue, and episodes of near collapse due to his relentless work habits. Yet these challenges were accompanied by profound creativity. Tesla's mind was a cauldron of ideas, constantly synthesizing information, imagining possibilities, and testing concepts mentally. His professors may have seen a diligent student. Tesla himself was already a visionary at work, experimenting in the theater of his imagination, creating machines and systems that no one else could yet conceive. One of Tesla's most significant formative experiences during this period was his exposure to the emerging technologies and industrial innovations of the late 19th century. He witnessed the rapid electrification of cities, the development of telegraphy and early electrical machinery, and the growing debate over alternating versus direct current. These technologies were not abstract theories to Tesla. He could see their potential, their flaws, and their possibilities. He began to envision improvements, innovations, and entirely new applications for electrical power. By the time he left the Polytechnic, he was not merely an educated engineer. He was an inventor in the making, capable of thinking far beyond the conventional knowledge of his time. Tesla's formative years were also marked by a sense of wonder and a deep engagement with natural phenomena. He was fascinated by lightning, magnetism, and the unseen forces that govern the universe. He often spent hours observing thunderstorms, analyzing the patterns of lightning, and reflecting on the invisible currents flowing through the natural world. These experiences were more than fascination. They were lessons. Tesla learned to observe carefully, to question assumptions, and to seek understanding of fundamental principles rather than merely accepting appearances. This approach would later underpin his experimental techniques and his revolutionary contributions to electrical engineering. Anecdotes from Tesla's student years reveal a mind constantly at work. He was known to solve complex mathematical problems in his head, sometimes astonishing classmates by producing solutions without writing a single calculation. He conducted experiments in his mind, imagining electrical circuits, motors, and generators in vivid detail. On one occasion, he reportedly repaired a broken machine by visualizing its mechanisms and identifying the problem without touching it. Such stories, whether embellished or factual, underscore the extraordinary combination of intellect, imagination, and practical insight that characterized Tesla's formative years. Throughout his education, Tesla's curiosity was not limited to science and engineering. He explored philosophy, literature, and the arts, developing a broad perspective that informed his approach to invention. He understood that technology could not exist in isolation. It was part of a larger human context. He believed that the application of knowledge should serve humanity, improve lives, and expand possibilities. This philosophical underpinning became a defining feature of his later work, as he sought not only to create machines, but to envision entire systems of energy, communication, and human advancement. By the end of his years at the Polytechnic, Tesla had matured into a young man of extraordinary intellect and vision. He possessed a deep understanding of electrical theory, an intuitive grasp of mechanics, and a unique ability to visualize and test ideas mentally. He had developed habits of intense focus, careful observation, and relentless experimentation. He had also cultivated an understanding of the philosophical and societal implications of his work. Tesla was no longer simply a gifted student. He was an innovator, a thinker poised to step onto the world stage and leave a mark that would transform the very nature of human civilization. In summary, Tesla's education and formative years were a crucible in which his extraordinary talents were refined. From the small village schools of Smiljan to the advanced laboratories of the Austrian Polytechnic, he cultivated intellect, imagination, and insight. His mental simulations, experiments, and deep curiosity formed the foundation for the inventions that would later electrify the world. The combination of technical mastery, philosophical perspective, and visionary imagination that Tesla developed during these years would remain with him throughout his life, shaping not only his inventions, but his approach to science, technology, and the future. These years of study, experimentation, and mental exploration were essential to Tesla's later achievements. They established the patterns of thought, the discipline of observation, and the audacity of vision that would define his contributions to the world. The boy from Smiljan had become a young man of extraordinary capability, ready to bring his ideas to the wider world, challenge conventions, and transform the possibilities of human life through electricity and imagination. This was the beginning of Tesla's journey from prodigy to inventor, from dreamer to visionary, and from student to one of the most influential minds of the modern age. By the early 1880s, Nikola Tesla stood at a crossroads, a brilliant young inventor with ideas far larger than the continent he lived on. Europe had given him education, knowledge, and discipline, but it could no longer contain the scale of his imagination. He dreamed of machines powered by invisible forces, systems that could move entire nations, and concepts that seemed impossible to the industrial thinkers around him. But in America, a land of ambition, industry, and relentless progress, Tesla sensed a place where his visions might finally find a home. In 1884, at the age of 28, Tesla set out on a journey that would transform not only his life, but the future of the world. His path to America was not paved with wealth or privilege. It was marked by struggle, determination, and a relentless belief in his own destiny. With him, he carried 4 cents in his pocket, a few poems, a book of calculations, and a letter of recommendation from a former employer who proclaimed, "I know 2 great men in this world. One is you, the other is Thomas Edison." It was a sentence that would soon shape Tesla's fate. The journey across the Atlantic was brutal. Tesla traveled in the lowest class on a ship crowded with immigrants chasing their own dreams. During the voyage, he was robbed, beaten, and nearly left with nothing. But even at his lowest, Tesla's hope never broke. He believed he was destined for something extraordinary, a belief powerful enough to withstand hardship. When he finally arrived in New York City, the skyline of 1884 was a forest of smokestacks, horse carriages, and electric wires. The city was alive, dirty, noisy, and full of opportunity. This was the beating heart of the Industrial Revolution, a place where inventions were currency and ambition was fuel. For Tesla, it was electrifying. He stepped onto American soil with determination burning inside him. His first steps led him to the office of Thomas Edison, the most famous inventor in America, already celebrated as the Wizard of Menlo Park. Edison was a man of practicality and experimentation, a builder of tangible machines. Tesla, on the other hand, was a man of visions and mathematical precision, 2 minds destined to both collaborate and collide. When Tesla introduced himself and presented the letter, Edison was skeptical. But the moment Tesla solved several technical problems that Edison's best engineers had struggled with, the skepticism vanished. Edison recognized talent, and Tesla's brilliance was impossible to ignore. Tesla began working for Edison, repairing dynamos, redesigning motors, and improving lighting systems. He worked day and night, sometimes for 20 hours straight. He admired Edison's tireless work ethic but was puzzled by his empirical approach. Edison tested hundreds of ideas at random, believing persistence would eventually reveal the answer. Tesla preferred to solve problems entirely in his mind before touching a tool. "I could visualize every detail," Tesla would later say, "and test it without having to build a single prototype." Their partnership was powerful, but destined to fracture. Edison's world ran on direct current. Tesla believed alternating current was the true future. Their philosophies were drifting toward conflict, and the moment came when Tesla requested payment Edison had verbally promised him. Edison laughed and said, "Tesla, you don't understand our American humor." Tesla walked out feeling betrayed but not defeated. Leaving Edison's company meant starting from nothing once again. Tesla found himself digging ditches to survive, earning only a few dollars a day. But even in the mud and grit of manual labor, his mind stayed alive with visions of alternating current, the system he believed would one day power entire cities. Within months, investors discovered him, and Tesla was back in a laboratory, designing machines that would soon ignite the greatest electrical revolution in history. This chapter of Tesla's life, the journey from Europe to America, the collaboration with Edison, and the painful break that followed, was the crucible in which his identity as an inventor was forged. In New York City, Tesla found a stage large enough for his genius. America became the canvas upon which he would paint the future of electricity. And although he arrived with only 4 cents in his pocket, Tesla carried something far more valuable, a vision powerful enough to change the world. By the late 1880s, the streets of America were glowing with electric light. But beneath that glow, a silent battle was brewing, a war for the very power that would define the future. At the heart of this conflict stood 2 men with radically different visions: Thomas Edison, champion of direct current, and Nikola Tesla, the visionary behind alternating current. Their clash would become one of the greatest technological battles in history, a struggle of ideas, ambition, and the electrification of the modern world. After breaking away from Edison, Tesla found himself armed with little more than his ideas. But these ideas were powerful, elegant mathematical solutions to the inefficiencies of direct current. Edison's DC system could only send electricity a short distance before losing its strength. It required massive generating stations every mile or so, a costly and inefficient approach. Tesla saw a different path: alternating current, a system that reversed direction many times a second, allowing electricity to travel long distances with minimal loss. It was efficient, scalable, and revolutionary, and Edison hated it. For Edison, DC was not just a technology, it was a business empire. He had built factories, patents, and public trust around it. To accept AC would mean admitting that Tesla, once his employee, had created something better. Pride, money, and national reputation were at stake, so Edison launched a campaign unlike anything the scientific world had seen. He publicly denounced AC as dangerous, unpredictable, even deadly. He claimed it could kill families, burn homes, and electrocute workers with a single misplaced wire. Newspapers printed his warnings, companies hesitated, and fear spread across the nation. Tesla, meanwhile, continued working tirelessly. With the backing of industrialist George Westinghouse, his AC motor and transformers began to gain attention. Westinghouse saw what Edison would not. AC was the future. Together, Tesla and Westinghouse formed a partnership that would challenge Edison's electric empire. But the price of challenging a giant was steep. Edison escalated the war. In a shocking public spectacle, he organized demonstrations where animals, dogs, horses, even an elephant, were electrocuted using AC power to show its danger. These brutal displays were designed to terrify the public, to turn fear into loyalty for his DC system. Newspapers began to refer to electrocution simply as being Westinghoused. Tesla never responded in anger. He believed the beauty of science needed no theatrics. He continued refining his AC system, creating motors of extraordinary efficiency. His confidence was not arrogance, it was clarity. He knew AC was superior, and he trusted that time would reveal the truth. The turning point came when Tesla's alternating current system was selected to power the 1893 World's Columbian Exposition in Chicago, the greatest showcase of technology the world had ever seen. As night fell on opening day, Westinghouse flipped the switch, and Tesla's AC system illuminated over 100,000 electric lamps. The fairgrounds erupted in a sea of white light visible for miles. The world stared in awe. This was electricity not as a novelty but as a spectacle, clean, bright, and controlled with remarkable efficiency. Children ran beneath the glowing arches, adults cheered, and engineers from across the globe stood stunned. Tesla walked the fairgrounds that night, bathed in the brilliance of his own creation, knowing the war had turned in his favor. Not long after, the contract to harness the mighty Niagara Falls, one of the most ambitious engineering projects of the century, was awarded to Tesla's AC system. When the generators finally roared to life, sending electricity across miles of transmission lines, a reporter declared, "Tesla has tamed Niagara." It was the moment AC officially triumphed over DC. Edison's resistance faded. His company merged, evolved, and eventually accepted alternating current as the backbone of the modern electrical grid. Tesla had not only won the war of currents, he had reshaped the future of energy. Today, every home, every city, every factory powered by AC carries a piece of Tesla's victory. The war of currents was not merely a technological battle, it was a clash of ideologies. Edison believed in incremental progress, built on trial and error. Tesla believed in the elegance of theory and the power of visionary engineering. Edison fought with spectacle and fear. Tesla fought with innovation and patience. And in the end, it was the brilliance of Tesla's ideas that illuminated the world. This was more than a victory. It was the beginning of the modern electrical age, the foundation upon which the rest of Tesla's extraordinary inventions would stand. By the time the war of currents was won, Nikola Tesla had already carved his name into the foundation of the modern world. But the true depth of his genius was only beginning to reveal itself. The same mind that had conquered the flow of electricity now turned toward inventions so advanced, so imaginative, that many would take decades, even a century, for the world to fully understand. Tesla was no longer just an engineer. He was becoming the architect of a technological future humanity had barely begun to imagine. At the center of Tesla's greatest achievement stood one masterpiece, the induction motor. This elegant, deceptively simple device brought alternating current to life. Without it, AC would have remained a theory, powerful but incomplete. With it, however, electricity could be converted into motion with a level of efficiency and smoothness no machine had ever achieved. Tesla's induction motor didn't just rotate. It danced with magnetic fields. As the currents shifted through coils, they created a rotating magnetic field, an invisible whirlpool that pulled the motor's rotor around like a ghostly hand. This invention became the beating heart of factories, trains, elevators, and eventually nearly every industrial system on Earth. Even today, more than a century later, most electric motors still follow the principles Tesla created. But Tesla was not content with revolutionizing industry. His curiosity stretched into the invisible, the untouchable, the very essence of nature's hidden forces. And so he created the Tesla coil, a device that even now feels like a piece of science fiction. With its spiraling copper windings and bright eruptions of lightning-like arcs, the Tesla coil became one of the most iconic inventions ever built. It was not just a spectacular machine. It was a tool that opened new scientific frontiers. The coil allowed Tesla to study high-frequency currents, wireless transmission, and the behavior of electricity at extreme voltages. In his laboratory, coils hummed like living creatures, filling the room with sheets of purple plasma that leapt into the air. These displays were not theatrical tricks. They were experiments probing the boundaries of electrical science. Tesla's work on wireless technology did not stop at the coil. He was one of the first to envision a world connected without wires, decades before radios, smartphones, or Wi-Fi existed. In 1893, he demonstrated wireless communication using a small transmitter and receiver, proving that information could be sent through the air. At a time when most scientists still believed electricity needed wires, Tesla described a global wireless network capable of transmitting messages, music, images, and even power. The world listened politely, but few believed such a future was possible. Yet Tesla kept going. He invented the first practical remote control, using radio waves to steer a small boat through a pool as astonished spectators watched. Many observers assumed it was a trick, or that Tesla was controlling the boat with hidden wires or magnets. Only a handful understood what they were witnessing: the birth of wireless control technology. Today, that same principle powers drones, satellites, and the entire infrastructure of the modern world. Tesla also experimented with lighting technology far ahead of his time. He created fluorescent and neon lamps decades before they were commercially adopted. His high-frequency lighting systems produced soft, radiant glows that were more efficient and cooler than Edison's incandescent bulbs. Tesla imagined entire cities illuminated by wireless energy, with lamps powered through the air. No wires, no sockets, just light freely drawn from the environment. Another of Tesla's breakthroughs was his early work on radio. Although Guglielmo Marconi would later receive the credit, Tesla had built and patented the core concepts of radio transmission long before Marconi's first transatlantic signal. When the U.S. Supreme Court eventually reviewed the patents, they overturned Marconi's claims, reinstating Tesla as the true inventor of radio technology. But this recognition came only after Tesla's death, a reminder of how often his genius was misunderstood or overshadowed. Among Tesla's lesser-known achievements was his work on mechanical vibration and resonance. He built oscillators capable of creating powerful harmonic vibrations, experimenting with their effects on buildings, machines, and the human body. In one famous story, Tesla caused a New York building to shake by attaching a small mechanical oscillator to its frame. Terrified workers fled into the streets, thinking an earthquake had struck. Tesla, amused, calmly slipped the device into his pocket and walked away. Throughout all these inventions, a common thread ran through Tesla's work. He saw beyond the present. His ideas were not confined by the limitations of his era. He imagined technologies that would take decades to become reality: wireless communication, drones, radar, plasma lights, renewable energy systems, and even concepts resembling smartphones. Tesla lived in the future, and every invention he created was a bridge leading toward it. But Tesla was not just building machines. He was building a philosophy. He believed that technology should empower humanity, elevate society, and unlock the potential hidden within nature. He often spoke of a world where energy was free, where information flowed effortlessly, and where human beings were connected across the planet through invisible networks. His inventions were steps toward this dream. In the end, Tesla's key inventions were not merely devices, they were visions. Each one carried within it the philosophy of a man who saw the universe as a symphony of invisible forces waiting to be understood. The world would not fully grasp the magnitude of his contributions until long after his lifetime, but the legacy of his inventions continues to pulse through modern civilization. From the hum of an electric motor to the signals transmitted across wireless networks, Tesla's genius lives in the heartbeat of the modern world. By the dawn of the 20th century, Nikola Tesla believed he was standing on the threshold of his greatest breakthrough, a discovery that would not just change the world, but unite it. Electricity had conquered cities and industries, but Tesla's vision stretched far beyond wires and power lines. He dreamed of a planet connected by invisible forces, where energy flowed freely through the very air, where messages, music, images, and even power traveled instantly across oceans. To bring this dream to life, he set his sights on building one of the most ambitious technological structures ever conceived, the Wardenclyffe Tower. In 1901, on a quiet stretch of land in Shoreham, Long Island, Tesla began constructing his masterpiece. Rising nearly 187 feet into the sky, the tower was crowned with a gleaming copper dome. It looked like something torn from the pages of a futuristic novel, part lighthouse, part antenna, part symbol of humanity's next leap forward. Beneath the tower lay an immense labyrinth of tunnels and steel chambers designed to channel massive currents of electrical energy into the Earth itself. For Tesla, the planet was not just a home, it was a conductor, a living medium through which power could be transmitted wirelessly to any point on its surface. Tesla called his plan the World Wireless System. Its purpose was bold, to provide universal telecommunications and global wireless power. He envisioned a world with no need for cables, no dependency on fuel, and no limitations imposed by distance. A simple device, he believed, could be placed in any home or building and draw electricity from the Earth's natural electrical resonance. Energy would become as accessible as air, clean, safe, and inexhaustible. Tesla was convinced that Wardenclyffe would become the first node of a worldwide network of towers. Each one would amplify signals and distribute power. Humanity would be connected through a seamless web of information. In Tesla's imagination, families would listen to broadcasts from across the world, ships would navigate by wireless signals, and machines would operate without wires. Even in his time, he predicted handheld devices capable of sending messages instantly. To many, this dream sounded impossible. Yet today, we recognize it as a blueprint for the modern world. Financing such a colossal project required powerful allies. At first, Tesla found one in J.P. Morgan, one of the richest and most influential financiers in America. Morgan agreed to support Tesla's tower with a substantial investment, believing it would revolutionize wireless communication and give him control over a new frontier of technology. But Tesla's vision expanded far beyond what Morgan intended to support. Tesla didn't just want to transmit messages, he wanted to transmit power. When Morgan realized the full scope of Tesla's ambition, he hesitated. A global wireless power system threatened the very industries he controlled. If energy could be drawn from the air, how could it be sold? Where would companies fit into a world where power flowed freely and universally? In bitter disappointment, funding slowed, then stopped entirely. Construction on Wardenclyffe stalled. Workers left. Supplies dried up. Tesla desperately tried to secure new investors, pleading with captains of industry, inventors, and even foreign governments. But his vision was too radical, too ahead of its time, and too threatening to the systems already in place. Many saw Wardenclyffe not as a revolution, but as a risk, a financial gamble that might never produce profit. Still, Tesla refused to abandon his dream. Even as creditors circled and debts grew, he continued refining the technology behind wireless energy. Newspapers occasionally published photos of him standing in dramatic poses near coils that sparked like lightning, but the public never understood the science behind his vision. To Tesla, wireless power was not magic. It was physics, the resonance of the earth, the conductivity of the atmosphere, the harmony of natural frequencies. If these could be harnessed, he believed, the world would be transformed. But time was not on Tesla's side. By 1906, Morgan withdrew completely. Wardenclyffe's great tower stood quiet, a silent monument to unfulfilled promise. Tesla visited the site less frequently, walking its grounds alone, gazing up at the copper dome as if trying to will life back into it. The tower, which once symbolized the future, had become a burden, an unfinished dream overshadowed by financial struggle and public doubt. For a while, Tesla continued to believe the project could be revived. He wrote letters, drew new diagrams, and refined his ideas late into the night. But the world was changing quickly. New technologies surged forward. Radio communications began to advance under other inventors. Governments invested in different infrastructures. And Tesla, without adequate support, fell further into obscurity. In 1915, reports circulated that the tower might be seized for unpaid debts. Tesla fought to protect it, insisting it held secrets vital to humanity's progress. But in the end, he lost. In 1917, during World War I, fears that the tower could be used as a German spy transmitter led the U.S. government to order its demolition. Explosives tore through the steel core, and in a cloud of dust and twisted metal, Wardenclyffe collapsed. Tesla watched from a distance, silent, heartbroken. The destruction of the tower was more than the loss of a structure. It was the end of Tesla's greatest dream. Yet the ideas behind Wardenclyffe did not die. Decades later, technologies like radio, Wi-Fi, satellite communication, and wireless power would emerge, each echoing Tesla's original vision. Today, we take for granted the invisible networks that connect our world. But long before they existed, Tesla imagined them, and he tried to build them. Wardenclyffe remains a symbol of both Tesla's genius and his tragedy, a testament to the extraordinary heights he reached and the limits imposed by a world not yet ready to follow him. In its rise, we see the brilliance of his imagination. In its fall, the cost of dreaming too far ahead of one's time. In an age before television, before mass media, and long before viral videos, Nikola Tesla understood something few scientists ever mastered: the power of spectacle. He knew that ideas, no matter how brilliant, needed to be seen to be believed. And so Tesla became not only an inventor, but a performer, orchestrating public demonstrations that stunned audiences and etched his name into the mythology of the modern world. These demonstrations were not mere shows. They were windows into the future. One of Tesla's earliest triumphs came in 1891 at Columbia College, where he unveiled experiments with high-frequency electricity. The room was filled with professors, engineers, businessmen, and journalists, all expecting a small technical presentation. What they witnessed instead was something bordering on the supernatural. Tesla stepped onto the stage holding a glass tube. With a soft hum, he passed it near a coil, and the tube burst into radiant light, glowing without a single wire. Gasps filled the auditorium. Electricity traveling wirelessly? Light created from empty air? It was as if Tesla had captured lightning and tamed it. Then came the moment that transformed Tesla from a scientist into a legend. He allowed the current from his coil to pass through his own body. Blue sparks crawled across his skin, dancing like tiny serpents of light. Tesla remained calm, serene even, as electricity flowed through him. At a time when most people feared electricity as a deadly force, Tesla stood illuminated by it, a living demonstration of mastery. Overnight, newspapers hailed him as the Wizard of Electricity. That image, half man and half lightning, would follow him for the rest of his life. Tesla's demonstrations only grew more ambitious. Perhaps the most iconic took place at the 1893 World's Columbian Exposition in Chicago, where he and Westinghouse powered the entire fair using alternating current. But Tesla also used the stage there to showcase his experiments to the public. In one display, he stood inside a cage built entirely of metal bars. Huge coils around him emitted blinding arcs of electricity. To the crowd, it looked like Tesla stood in the center of a thunderstorm. Yet the metal cage, acting as a Faraday shield, protected him completely. He stepped out unscathed while the audience erupted into applause, many convinced they had witnessed a miracle. Another unforgettable demonstration involved what Tesla called wireless vacuum lamps. In front of a crowd, he arranged glass bulbs around the room and activated a transmitter. One by one, they lit up as though spirits had awakened inside them, glowing with no wires, no sockets, no visible source of power. To a world accustomed to kerosene lamps, this sight was astonishing. Many spectators whispered that Tesla was communicating with forces beyond nature. Even educated observers struggled to grasp the concept. But Tesla simply smiled, quietly satisfied that the future had spoken for itself. Tesla also stunned audiences with his experiments in resonance. One particular demonstration became legendary. In his New York laboratory, he attached a small mechanical oscillator, no larger than a hand, to a steel beam in the building. As the device hummed, the entire structure began to vibrate. Glass shivered on tables, tools rattled. Workers fled outdoors in panic, certain an earthquake had struck. Tesla calmly retrieved a hammer and smashed the oscillator before the police arrived. Later, he laughed about the event, saying, "I could have brought down the building in minutes." It was a chilling reminder of how deeply he understood the hidden harmonies governing the physical world. Yet, Tesla's demonstrations were not all thunder and spectacle. Some were elegant, subtle, even poetic. In one famous experiment, he created a metal plate connected to a high-frequency generator. When he placed his hand above it, a soft violet flame wrapped around his fingers, painless, flickering like a halo. He called this phenomenon St. Elmo's fire, and it illustrated the beauty he saw in electrical phenomena. For Tesla, electricity was not just a tool, it was art. But perhaps the demonstration that most accurately captured Tesla's vision of the future was his 1898 unveiling of the world's first radio-controlled device, a small boat. Inside a crowded auditorium at Madison Square Garden, Tesla steered the boat through a pool using unseen signals. Spectators were baffled. Some insisted Tesla was using telepathy. Others accused him of hiding a tiny monkey inside the boat to operate it. Tesla dismissed these claims with amusement. He understood that the world was witnessing something unprecedented, the birth of robotics and wireless control. These moments defined Tesla's reputation. Journalists adored him. Crowds worshipped him. Rival inventors envied him. With every demonstration, Tesla rewrote the limits of what people thought was possible. He made the intangible tangible, the invisible visible. His shows carried the drama of theater, the rigor of science, and the wonder of magic. Yet, beneath the applause lay a deeper purpose. Tesla believed that inspiring the public was essential to pushing humanity forward. He knew that fear held people back from embracing new technology, and that only awe could overcome that fear. His demonstrations were invitations, glimpses into a world powered by ideas. Tesla once said, "The mind is sharper and keener in seclusion and uninterrupted solitude." And yet, paradoxically, some of his greatest contributions were shared with thousands. Through spectacle, he taught the world not only what electricity was, but what it could become. Though decades have passed and science has advanced far beyond his early demonstrations, Tesla's performances remain unforgettable. They were not tricks, they were prophecies. And every spark that leapt from his coils was a promise of the electrified future we live in today. For every triumph that lifted Nikola Tesla into the realm of legend, there were setbacks that dragged him back into the world of hardship, conflict, and bitter disappointment. Genius often walks hand in hand with adversity, and Tesla's path was no exception. His brilliance attracted admiration and enemies. His ideas brought wonder and resistance. And as the 20th century dawned, the same world that applauded his genius also became the arena where powerful rivals, financial struggles, and cruel twists of fate tested him like never before. One of Tesla's earliest and most enduring rivalries began with Thomas Edison. Although the war of currents ended decisively in favor of Tesla's alternating system, the tension between the two men never truly disappeared. Edison, a symbol of American invention, represented practical engineering and ruthless business strategy. Tesla, by contrast, embodied visionary idealism, ideas that soared beyond commercial boundaries. Their clash was not only technological, it was philosophical. And while Tesla won the scientific battle, Edison's influence in business and media remained a shadow stretching over Tesla's life for decades. But Edison was not Tesla's only rival. As Tesla pushed forward into the fields of radio communication and wireless transmission, another name rose in prominence: Guglielmo Marconi. Marconi had a talent Tesla lacked. He was a shrewd businessman. Using elements Tesla had already patented, Marconi built a practical and marketable version of wireless telegraphy. In 1901, when Marconi sent the first transatlantic radio signal, the world celebrated him as the father of radio. Tesla was stunned. He knew the foundations of Marconi's work were rooted in his own inventions. The rivalry deepened when the Nobel Prize rumors began. In 1915, newspapers reported that Tesla and Edison would share the Nobel Prize in physics. But the announcement was premature. Something changed behind closed doors. Some said Edison refused to share an award with Tesla. Others speculated financial politics played a role. Whatever the reason, neither man received the prize that year. Tesla shrugged off the insult, but privately he felt the wound. Recognition mattered. Not for fame, but for the validation of ideas he believed would change humanity. Instead, he watched others gain credit for discoveries he had pioneered. The setbacks were not limited to professional rivalries. Tesla's financial life grew increasingly unstable. He possessed a unique flaw for an inventor living in an industrial age. He cared more for ideas than money. Deals slipped away, patents expired. Promising investors turned elsewhere. After the downfall of Wardenclyffe, Tesla's financial world collapsed. He owed massive debts. Lawyers pursued him. His laboratory in Colorado Springs had already burned down years earlier in a catastrophic fire that destroyed thousands of pages of research and countless inventions. It was a blow from which Tesla never fully recovered. Tesla continued to innovate, but the world was moving on toward practical, profitable inventions. The age of grand electrical revolutions was fading, replaced by consumer products and industrial machinery. Tesla's visions often seemed too large, too unconventional, too costly for the business leaders of the time, and so one by one doors closed. Yet perhaps the most painful setbacks came not from rivals or money, but from the way the public's perception of Tesla began to shift. In the early years, he had been celebrated as a prophet of the future. But as his ideas grew more advanced and more unusual, thoughts of wireless power grids, global energy systems, and devices capable of directing beams across the world, many began to question his sanity. Newspapers rebranded him as an eccentric. Journalists who once praised him now wrote about his strange habits, his aversion to germs, his obsession with pigeons, and his fear of round objects. It was easier for the world to mock what it could not understand. Still, Tesla never abandoned his hope for a better future. Even as money vanished and recognition faded, he worked tirelessly on new inventions. Some were misunderstood, others were ignored entirely. His idea for a death ray, for example, was not a weapon of destruction, but a defensive shield system designed to prevent war, a precursor to modern directed energy concepts. But because the world was unprepared for such technology, Tesla's intentions were twisted by rumor and sensationalism. Rival inventors sometimes dismissed him. Business partners grew wary. Governments hesitated to support him. Yet through it all, Tesla remained steadfast, convinced that humanity would eventually embrace the ideas he had devoted his life to exploring. In the end, what defined Tesla was not the rivals who challenged him, nor the setbacks that wounded him. It was the resolve with which he rose after each fall. His life was not a straight path toward glory, but a series of peaks and valleys, triumphs that reshaped the world, followed by hardships that tested the limits of his endurance. Tesla once said, "I do not regret my experiments, even if they went against the desired results." He believed failure was not an end, but a step toward truth. And with every rivalry he faced, every setback he endured, he carried his ideas forward with unwavering conviction. Even in the shadows of disappointment, Tesla's mind continued to illuminate the world. As the world surged into the modern age, Nikola Tesla, once celebrated as the man who illuminated the planet, found himself drifting to the margins of society. New industries rose, fortunes shifted, and the scientific landscape transformed. Yet, through all of this, Tesla remained a solitary figure, a man whose greatest companion was not the world around him, but the vast universe of ideas within his own mind. His later years were marked by isolation, hardship, and financial struggle. But even in the quiet shadows of his final decades, Tesla's brilliance continued to burn. Steady, resilient, and profoundly ahead of its time. By the 1920s, Tesla's public influence had greatly diminished. Once a star of scientific exhibitions and media praise, he now lived a modest and often overlooked life. He moved between a series of New York hotels, carrying with him boxes of papers, drawings, and prototypes, fragments of a lifetime of invention. His rooms were cluttered with notes and sketches, many of which described ideas far beyond the technology of his era. Global wireless networks, resonant energy transmitters, flying machines that resembled modern VTOL aircraft, and particle beam devices intended to end war forever. Though his mind remained sharp, his circumstances were difficult. Financial instability followed him relentlessly. Many of his patents had expired or been overtaken by competitors. Companies that once sought his brilliance now invested in newer, more profitable ventures. The world that Tesla helped to electrify had become a world that moved on without him. Yet Tesla endured with quiet dignity. Every morning, regardless of his financial state, he dressed impeccably. Dark suit, white gloves, polished shoes, and walked to Bryant Park to feed the pigeons. These daily rituals became a refuge for him. Observers often saw him kneeling gently, whispering to the birds as if speaking to old friends. For Tesla, who had spent his life surrounded by the thunder of machines and the hum of laboratories, these soft moments of companionship offered comfort. There is a story that Tesla once found an injured white pigeon near his hotel. He carried her to his room, cared for her, fed her, and nursed her back to health. She returned to him daily, sometimes tapping on his window to announce her arrival. Tesla spoke of her with emotion, calling her a symbol of purity and peace. "I loved that pigeon," he once said. "If she needed me, nothing else mattered." In those words lay the loneliness of a man who had given the world so much, yet received so little human connection in return. Despite his isolation, Tesla continued to attract occasional attention from journalists and admirers. Many came to hear about his latest ideas, though by this time his concepts seemed so extraordinary that reporters often portrayed him as an eccentric dreamer rather than a visionary. Newspapers focused on his habits, his avoidance of round objects, his insistence on the number 3, his fascination with cleanliness, rather than the remarkable intellect behind them. Sensationalism overshadowed substance. Yet beneath these surface-level portrayals, Tesla's later years were not devoid of achievement. He received several honors that recognized his lifelong contributions to electrical engineering. In 1917, he was awarded the Edison Medal, ironically named after his greatest rival. Tesla accepted the honor, but with characteristic humility, thanking the committee without resentment. Later, universities and scientific societies acknowledged his foundational work with alternating current, radio, and wireless systems. Though the recognition was long overdue, it offered glimpses of appreciation for the man whose ideas had shaped the modern world. Tesla also continued to pursue new projects, even in his 70s and 80s. He proposed a supersonic aircraft that could travel from New York to London in just a few hours using wireless power. He envisioned a global energy system that would eliminate scarcity. He sketched out designs for a resonance-based earthquake detector, showing his continued fascination with vibrations and frequency. Many of these ideas were impossible with the technology of his time, but today elements of them appear in modern engineering, aerodynamics, and physics. Still, loneliness weighed heavily on him. He often declined invitations to parties and gatherings, choosing instead to work late into the night in his hotel room, his desk illuminated by the warm glow of a single lamp. For Tesla, the silence of those hours was not emptiness, it was freedom. Time to think, imagine, and pursue the relentless curiosity that defined his life. But even as his ideas soared, his body grew frail. Years of overwork, stress, and poor nutrition took their toll. He suffered accidents, including a serious incident in 1937 when he was struck by a taxi while crossing a street. He refused medical attention, claiming he would heal on his own. The injuries, however, weakened him greatly. In the last years of his life, Tesla lived at the New Yorker Hotel, room 3327. He rarely received visitors. Staff occasionally saw him in the lobby, thin but dignified, carrying folded papers under his arm. On January 7, 1943, Nikola Tesla passed away quietly in his room, alone at the age of 86. The world barely noticed at first. Newspapers printed short articles. Few attended his funeral. But time, as always, reveals truth. In the decades after his death, the world began to rediscover Tesla. Scholars unearthed his patents. Engineers revisited his technologies. Countries honored him with statues, museums, and scientific awards. His ideas, once dismissed, became cornerstones of modern physics, telecommunications, and electrical engineering. The man who died in obscurity became one of history's most celebrated inventors. Tesla's later years may have been marked by hardship and isolation, but they also showed the resilience of a mind unwilling to dim. His legacy did not fade with the struggles he endured. Instead, it grew brighter with each passing generation. For even in the quiet twilight of his life, Tesla remained what he had always been, a man devoted to the boundless potential of human imagination. In the decades following Nikola Tesla's quiet passing, the world began to awaken to a profound truth. The foundations of the modern age were built upon the shoulders of a man who often walked alone. What was once overlooked, dismissed, or misunderstood gradually transformed into one of the greatest legacies in scientific history. Today, the influence of Nikola Tesla is not confined to museums or textbooks. It pulses through every power line, every wireless signal, every technological dream that dares to reach beyond the possible. Tesla imagined a world connected not by wires, but by waves, a global symphony of energy and information that could travel through the very air we breathe. His vision, once perceived as impossible, has become the cornerstone of modern communication. Smartphones, satellites, Wi-Fi networks, Bluetooth devices, radio links, and global telecommunications follow principles Tesla articulated more than a century ago. He foresaw a planet where information could travel instantly across oceans, where entire cities could be illuminated with clean, renewable energy, and where machines would free human beings to focus on creativity, innovation, and progress. It is remarkable to consider how much of Tesla's work foreshadowed our present. His experiments with resonant energy and high-frequency currents revealed concepts that would later shape radar, MRI technology, neon lighting, X-ray imaging, drones, robotics, and remote-controlled devices. His studies on vibration and resonance echo through modern seismology and materials science. His ideas about renewable, sustainable energy mirrored today's global movement toward a cleaner future. And yet, Tesla's influence is not merely technological, it is deeply philosophical. He believed the world should be guided by curiosity rather than fear, by collaboration rather than competition, by imagination rather than limitation. He famously said, "The present is theirs, the future for which I have worked is mine." It is only now, long after his death, that we recognize how true those words were. Today, Tesla stands as a symbol of possibility, a reminder that one mind, when freed from convention, can reshape the destiny of humanity. His life teaches us that genius is not always celebrated in its own time. Innovation is often misunderstood before it is embraced. And dreamers, though sometimes isolated, light the path for generations to come. Statues of Tesla now rise in cities around the world. His name is etched on scientific awards, university buildings, and even a cutting-edge electric car company. Museums dedicated to his work attract visitors from every corner of the globe. And his story continues to inspire creators, engineers, researchers, filmmakers, students, and everyday dreamers who look to the future with the same unyielding vision he carried throughout his life. But Tesla's legacy is more than history. It is unfinished work, a blueprint for what humanity can still become. We stand at a crossroads where his ideas matter more than ever. Climate change demands new approaches to energy. Global communication continues to evolve. Technologies once limited to science fiction, drones, autonomous machines, wireless power transfer, global energy distribution, are rapidly advancing. The world Tesla imagined is within reach. His story challenges us to dare greatly, to think differently, and to push the boundaries of what we believe is possible. It calls us to honor the pursuit of knowledge for its own sake, to recognize the value of curiosity, and to support those who dare to dream boldly. As we look back at his extraordinary journey, from a small village in the Balkans to the glowing skyline of New York, from poverty to scientific immortality, we are reminded that progress is rarely comfortable. True innovation requires courage. It requires sacrifice. It requires the willingness to see what others cannot. And now, more than a century after he first imagined a world connected by invisible waves of power and information, that world has become our reality. Every flick of a light switch, every wireless connection, every hum of an electric motor carries within it a spark of Tesla's genius. His life may have ended in solitude, but his impact continues to grow, illuminating the world in ways he always knew it would. Nikola Tesla once said, "Let the future tell the truth and evaluate each one according to his work and accomplishments." Today, that future is here, and the truth is clear. He did not simply imagine the world we live in. He built the roadmap for it. Nikola Tesla gave the world ideas that reshaped history, but his greatest dream was to inspire future generations. If his story moved you, if his vision ignites your imagination, if you believe in innovation, creativity, and the power of human potential, then help us share this message. Like, subscribe, and share this video, so Tesla's legacy can continue to reach millions. And if you want to support future documentaries like this one, stories of visionaries, pioneers, and forgotten geniuses, follow our channel and join us as we explore the minds that changed the world. This is not just history. This is inspiration. This is the spark of possibility. Together, let's light up the future, just as Nikola Tesla dreamed.